You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to How to 20-something, with today's episode being all about managing your mind if you're single and have a slew of weddings lined up. Honestly, now that I think about it, I have only been to one wedding with someone I was dating, and I was the plus one in that situation. Needless to say, at some point in your 20s, you are probably going to attend a wedding by yourself, if not be in a wedding and be single. Unless, of course, you are part of the niche 20-somethings who met their life partner before the age of 25. But for the vast majority of you listening, that's probably not the case, which is why I felt the need to make an episode about how you can get your mind and bank account in order as you fly solo at weddings. I also feel called to talk about this because I am in 3 weddings, back to back to back, and at this point in time, I flew solo to the one that took place in early November and plan on flying solo at my sister's in March and my best friend's in June. It just is what it is. And there are moments that suck about it, but there are also moments that are great, which I'll get into in a moment. I've been single for quite some time now and am not someone who just jumps into relationships. This is no hate at all to those of you who do find yourselves hopping out of one relationship and into another less than 3 months after ending one. It's just to say, I don't share that same level of luck in finding someone that quickly that I want to spend my time with. And if you are someone that can go into a new relationship relatively quickly, then this episode, it also probably doesn't really apply to you, since the likelihood of you having a plus one to bring to a wedding is relatively high. So this episode is for my fellow single peeps who love and love watching the people they love fall in love, but feel frustrated about their own love life or lack thereof. I'll be talking from the perspective of just being a guest to being in the wedding party, how you can save on some expenses, and maybe some what not to do's as a single guy or girl at a wedding. For starters, and probably the most important point I'm going to make in this episode, if you are not happy to be at said wedding because you feel so poorly about your own struggles, then please know it's okay to decline the invite. You need to take care of yourself. Your friend getting married might be bummed that you aren't going, but it's better you remove yourself from this day than suck the happiness out of a happy occasion, all because you are unhappy with your own life. And you are allowed to be unhappy with your own life. And even if you think you'll be able to put on a brave face, trust me when I say your energy will out you. You do not need to attend every wedding you're invited to, especially if you're going to end up feeling worse about yourself after it's over or while it's happening. All you have to do is send a gift off the registry, maybe add a little note that you love them and you're sorry you can't make it, and then move on. I declined a wedding invite this year for many reasons, and actually being single wasn't one of them, but it was because I honestly didn't like the person my friend was marrying, and it would require me to buy an expensive flight and hotel and be around people that I haven't spoken to in a while, and I just didn't feel like forcing the small talk or spending the money. I was offered a plus one on that invitation, which is nice since I wouldn't know many people there, but alas, I declined and I sent a gift. But on that note of expensive flights and hotels and buying gifts and outfits, weddings get expensive as a guest. I'm well aware the bride and groom are spending a buttload on this event, but as a single attendee with a lot of weddings lined up and no one to share costs with, it really adds up. And if you're in the bridal party, then you are most likely paying for hair and or makeup, Ubers, outfits, the bachelorette, gifts for the bride outside of the wedding, and then a gift for the bride and groom. I honestly wasn't sure what the policy was for giving a gift when a bridesmaid because of all the other expenses that we do have. So in case you're listening and are also unsure, you are to give the bride and groom a separate gift, whether it's cash, a check, or something off their registry. For example, I donated to their honeymoon fund, but I had to ask my sister first if I were to get a separate gift because I really wasn't sure, and this was my first wedding party experience. So yes, weddings are expensive, and the closer you are to the bride or the groom, the more money you are probably going to spend. So on that note, let's get into saving on some of these costs for the weddings you do decide to go to or are in. To begin, get a credit card with travel points. I use Chase. I know there are actual airline credit cards you could get, hotel credit cards, Capital One, Amex, whatever it is. Do your research and pick a card that is going to be the most cost effective, since these kinds of cards usually have some kind of annual fee, but they come with the ability to accrue a lot of points that can then be transferred to hotels and flights. And you're already swiping that card for groceries and other things that you might as well get some credit for it that you can use somewhere else. Just make sure that when you go to get one of these types of credit cards, that you're able to reach the amount that gives you the extra points, and, emphasis on the and, that you are able to pay off that card when you do reach that certain amount. Because what you don't want to do is get yourself in credit card debt, as that kind of defeats the point of getting the card to help you out in the first place. Another way to save on costs, mainly for hotels, is to look at Airbnbs in the area or ask the bride or groom if they know of anyone who would want a hotel roommate for that weekend. You could even ask if anyone wants to split an Airbnb. I've been to a wedding where the bridal party, so the groomsmen and the bridesmaids, were splitting the Airbnbs together, and then they were getting ready together, and it just made a lot of sense. For the wedding I had in early November, I first looked at Airbnbs, and it was in a weird area of Orlando, so these Airbnbs were rooms in people's houses, and being a girl traveling alone, that felt uncomfortable for me to go do. So I asked the bride if she knew of anyone I could split a hotel room with. Now, I was a bridesmaid in this wedding, and every other bridesmaid was in a long-term relationship or part of the family. So it definitely felt weird for me to share a room with another couple, especially because weddings bring out the raunchy side of relationships, and I would be massively cock-blocking if you're catching my drift. But I was desperate, and I was not about to spend $400 on a hotel room for 2 nights all by myself. Well, I got lucky with asking, and because I've known this bride since we were 13, she said I can just stay with her family at their Airbnb. And I ended up having my own room and bathroom in that Airbnb because it was very big and accommodated a lot of people. I understand that this is not an option for everyone because that would be crazy. But what I am saying is it doesn't hurt to ask the bride or groom, depending on who you know best, if they know of anyone else in a similar predicament. Because chances are they do know of someone and they can help you guys get set up so you can split the cost with another guest flying solo. Another way to save on some wedding costs is to rewear your outfits. I have worn the same outfits to a few different weddings. You just need to strategize who is overlapping where. I got lucky with this one too as a bridesmaid because the 3 weddings I'm in from November 2024 to June 2025 are all sage green, and none of these people know each other. So there will be 0 overlapping, and I will be wearing the bridesmaid's dress I just wore to the wedding I'm in June. I'm the maid of honor at my sister's wedding, so I'll be going a little nicer and getting a different dress. But dresses do not have to be that expensive. You can get some nice quality ones for less than $100, and then you can style it differently to change it up so it doesn't look the exact same dress at every wedding. And if it does, who cares? No one is going to call you out for wearing the same dress to a different wedding. All I can think of is that scene in the Lizzie McGuire movie where Lizzie goes, well, I may be an outfit repeater, but you're an outfit rememberer. So if someone does call you out for wearing the same outfit, then you can just think, okay, this person is so obsessed with me and my awesomeness. I'll admit it's a little weird, but I'm flattered nonetheless. Overall though, I think everyone knows being a wedding guest and in the bridal party is expensive. And if you're getting invited to the wedding, then you have a decent enough relationship with that person where they can respect your financial situation and whether or not you feel financially capable of attending wedding events and the wedding itself. My friend Katie, who gets married in June, is really wonderfully aware of this, almost to a fault. And I know she's listening, so I love you, Katie, but she's getting married in her hometown. She doesn't live there. Most of her friends don't live there. Her fiance's entire family doesn't live there. And she doesn't want everyone flying multiple times for her because she understands it adds up. And it's a relief to have one less thing to worry about adding to my expenses, but I did tell her that we knew what we were signing up for when we said yes to being a part of the wedding party. So she said, don't worry about the bridal shower, and instead of a whole bachelorette, she wants to do a nice dinner with everyone the night before the rehearsal dinner. That way, people don't have to buy all of these extra flights and Airbnbs and food. I encouraged her to have a bachelorette, but she said it's easier on her to not have to plan this whole extra trip and then coordinate everyone's schedules. So it works out. Another example is when I planned my sister's bachelorette. Her main requirement was for it to be as cost-effective as possible. She also wanted tattoo faces of her fiance, but really it was to be as cost-effective as possible. And it's because she knows these things can get really expensive, and she doesn't want to put anyone in a financially uncomfortable situation for her. That required me, as the maid of honor, to compare different Airbnbs and pick the one that is in a good area, does not require a lot of Ubers to be taken, and is priced well. Then all of the food and drinks were based on the individual girl's preferences. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because there are people who are out of touch with their friends' situations and want to feel celebrated and not spare any dime in the process. And that's fine. If that's your friend that you're thinking of that wants everyone to spend thousands of dollars for her to have a great time and you don't fit well with that mentality, then you can either say goodbye to this friend, which I know sounds harsh, you can decline the invite to the bachelor or the bachelorette, or you can tell them the truth about your financial situation. Yes, it's embarrassing. I get that. No one likes to admit that they aren't doing well. But you're part of the wedding party for a reason, meaning you have a close enough relationship with this person to communicate this effectively without ruining your friendship. But at the end of the day, it's your bank account that you have to deal with, and it's on you to set a boundary that is in accordance with what you're comfortable spending. Outside of finances, we're going to fast forward to the actual wedding day, a day filled with love. It's perfectly normal that you're going to feel some pain for yourself about how far from that stage of life you are. It's a day commemorating the love of two people, and you don't have that. The worst is at family weddings when you get asked all the personal questions since family members just have no filter. So not only are you already a little down on yourself, but now you have Aunt Sally asking when will it be your turn and if you've been on any dates recently or in any relationships. I had my cousin's wedding, also in November, and as I've already mentioned, my sister is getting married in March. So luckily, the questions being asked at my cousin's wedding were centered around my business and how that's been going, and then around my sister's wedding since that's the next family one. But even still, almost every person in my family is with their long-term partner, so it does feel isolating to fly solo. Like when the DJ invites couples to the dance floor to slow dance. I think my Nana is the only member in the family who constantly asks about my dating life, so I do luck out when it's just one person, and it's usually when I call her, so not really in person. But if you hate the dating questions as much as the next person, then try to come up with a couple of different responses that don't allow the other person to continue to dig into your dating life. For example, if you're asked, are you seeing anyone? You can respond politely with no and then turn the conversation onto them by asking them a question about themselves. So it could be something like, no, I'm not, but how have you been? How's the insert someone or something in their life? And change the topic and the focus of the conversation. You don't want to be rude. But at the same time, if you've been single for a solid bit, then that question does get annoyingly redundant. You don't need to come up with some whole explanation of you haven't found anyone, or you're not settling on the next person that walks through the door, or you're waiting for Mr. Right, or it's not your focus right now. You can simply just say you aren't seeing anyone and then change the conversation. People are nosy. They're going to continue to push and ask questions like your relationship status is your only worth. But I'm here to tell you that it's not. And I know you know it's not. But when you're in these types of situations, it definitely feels that way and it sucks. It pairs into the question for people who are dating when they'll get asked when they plan on getting engaged and married, or people who are married get asked when they're going to have kids. It's also okay to not want any of that, to not want a partner for yourself, to not want to get married, to not want to have kids. It all boils down to the same tactic of give a brief response and then change the focus of the conversation. If you become the question asker, then you get to be in control of where the conversation goes, which, speaking of control, changing topics again, controlling yourself at weddings when you're single is another big topic I want to touch on. Shifting your mindset from finding someone to meet who is also single and going home together to having fun with the couple getting married will let you enjoy the night so much more. You're not going in with the goal of meeting someone and constantly having your head on a swivel trying to find a suitable mate for the evening, but rather enjoying the evening by celebrating the reason you're there. Dance the night away, make good memories, and if you just so happen to meet someone, then great. The wedding I was a bridesmaid in early November was the most fun I've ever had at a wedding. And it's because my focus was on having fun. That and the music was really good. I was completely sober and on the dance floor the entire night. Yes, doing the worm at the bride's demands, but remember, your reputation, I say that after the fact of me doing the worm, your reputation will still be with you the next day. Mine's a pretty good reputation to have, but you don't want to be known for as the person to sleep their way through the wedding or to get too drunk that you can't drive yourself home. As I'm planning this episode, I'm finishing up How I Met Your Mother for the second time. And without spoiling the show if you haven't watched it yet, but Ted is single at his friend's wedding, and the focus from Barney is for him to find a girl at the Friday night festivities to have for the weekend. Lo and behold, it doesn't work out, and he finds a girl who is a complete disaster. The episodes that encompass this wedding are all about how Ted is single, and it's so sad that he's single at this nice wedding for his friends. He's unbothered by his relationship status, but everyone else is putting this pressure on him to find someone and then express how sorry they feel for him being single. And because everyone is instilling this belief in Ted, he starts to take action in finding someone to spend his weekend with. What I'm telling you is don't let other people impose beliefs in you about being single at a wedding. Many people are single at weddings, and it's okay. You don't need a +1 to have a good time. Heck, I went to my client's wedding last year, and I knew her and one other guest who I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. I had a great time. I didn't stay super late, but I enjoyed being there as I was with this client for a majority of her relationship, and it was wonderful to see it progress from the moving in together to getting engaged to moving states together and then getting married. Being single and not knowing many people at the wedding allows you to be open to meeting everyone without any preconceived notion as to how your night is going to turn out, because you get to be in charge of how your night turns out. You get to just be in the moment and not feel responsible for a +1 having a good time. Because, I'm going to repeat this again, your relationship status does not take away from who you are as a person. You are whole and complete and at a wedding to celebrate your friend finding their forever person. It's okay to want that for yourself. Your time will come eventually. But being single at a wedding, not just in your 20s, is a common experience. I wouldn't be making an episode on this topic if I didn't think it was relatable. It's on you to manage your mind, to manage your expectations, and to manage your attitude as you go into wedding weekend. And on that note, that's how I'm wrapping up this episode of How to 20-something. So if you're listening to this and are feeling a little better about being single at a wedding, then please let me know. Share this episode with a friend or post it on social media and tag me at coach.justdiamond when you do. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.